Good morning, gentlemen. Gail, Steve, good to see you.
Morning.
Good to have you in council session. So even though it's a Zoom, good to see you.
You know what? And Commissioner Barron cannot be here. He had something come up yesterday, a doctor's appointment that he just needed to get it done today. It was going to be something that he couldn't reschedule for quite some time, and so he apologizes for not being here, but that's where he's at.
Well, those are tough to reschedule, so you got to have your health as your first priority. So I don't blame him at all. Well, good to see you too. I guess we have some informational exchange we want to do. So first, I'd like to, of course, introduce myself as the one of the new council representatives in that large seat, and then the selection as the chair for the tribal council here. And then, of course, we have some other new council members. I'd like them to introduce themselves for you. And I'll start with Jimmy.
Good morning. Jim Malcher, representing the Harley District.
Hi, I'm Jocko Road. I represent the Polson District. Nice to meet you.
Good morning.
Good morning. So those are the three new faces here. And I'm not sure everybody knows Steve. If he wants to introduce himself, that'd be great.
Steve Stanley, Commissioner in Training, was appointed in August of last year because we had a commissioner fighting cancer. I will be running for the office this next year.
Thank you, Steve. We also have in the room here with us is your Deputy County Attorney. And so please introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is James Lopatka. I'm the Chief Deputy County Attorney, and I'm here to provide any assistance I can.
Great. Thank you for being here. Gail and Steve, we also have a lot of staff here that can provide information for us, on any discussion points that we have this morning. So we may call on them to help pass on information that would be beneficial to us. So I'll go ahead and let you go ahead and start out, Gail and Steve.
Well, I didn't, we didn't really put together an agenda, I guess, of specific items that we wanted to discuss. I think you folks may have been provided with a copy of an ad that the commissioners put in the Valley Journal this past week, was entitled Current Lake County Conditions. And so there were some items there that we tried to highlight, trying to put out some information to the public about what the status, current status of some of these projects, some of these issues, I guess, and where we are right now dealing with those. So I don't know if that's a place where any of the council would have any questions about what was contained in that ad. I guess we'll kind of maybe open it up to any questions that folks might have regarding that document that we had.
Yeah, we have that information in front of us. And so your first item, the infrastructure of the flood irrigation project. Yeah, I really appreciate staff working together on this one, and that's a important issue for us. And I believe I could ask Casey maybe to do an update for us, but I believe we really like the way that the MOU is being drafted, or the current state of it right now. So we would love to be able to finalize that document with the county. That's certainly something that's a positive movement forward that we would share together. So that would be one item. I don't know if the other council has any recollection or issues or comments on that. Martin?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, County Commissioners. At the meeting we had in November with the Lieutenant Governor and Misty Cool, I thought we made a lot of really good progress with the county, hopefully working together because we all share the roads. You know, the infrastructure here, you know, is definitely something that could be improved. And I think that we as members of, you know, kind of dual citizens here of our nation and then the county, you know, we, I think came to the conclusion that we all share these roads. You know, the potholes don't discriminate. So, you know, especially with the bridges as well. And I think that we came to a really good kind of conclusion at that. And I'm looking forward to our next meeting with the Lieutenant Governor and Misty to kind of conclude that and hopefully, you know, get on the same page as far as, you know, helping one another. You know, there's a lot of resources we have access to that can get to the county level a lot quicker. And I think that we're more than willing to work together. And that's kind of I felt that really was a really good meeting. And I don't say that lightly. And I felt that we kind of over the last few years with COVID and everything have kind of come to that realization that we are all in one community together, and it's important that we have a sense of that. And we all look out for the same people, you know, our kids, our elders, you know, we look out for one another. So I think that that has been kind of, since I've been on council, the direction that we're trying to go. So thank you guys for meeting with us, and I'm looking forward to continuing doing it. Thanks.
Yeah, I think, you know, what came out of that meeting was, you know, some great discussion. And I think, you know, what the final resolution or decision there was that this question of who owns the infrastructure of the Flathead Irrigation Project is not going to be determined in the near future. And so the state pretty much said, Lake County and CSKT, you guys figure out how to keep these roads maintained, how to keep them safe, while somebody in a level of authority can ultimately make the decision as to who actually owns this infrastructure and who's responsible for repair and replacement. So I agree with Martin. You know, what came out of it was that the state said, county and CSKT, you figure it out. And I think we've got a good MOU put together that's gonna allow us to work together to address any safety concerns that come up.
Thank you, Gail. I might have Casey Ryan in our roads division give us an update too. Thank you, Casey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of council, and good morning, county commissioners. Yeah, I would agree, and I would touch on that a bit. So one of the things that the settlement authorizes the tribes to do is to rehabilitate the infrastructure of the Flathead Indian Irrigation Project. And the tribes have really hit the ground running on that. The tribes have reorganized an entire division within the Tribal Natural Resources Department. And those staff have been working really overtime on implementing the settlement, specifically within rehabilitating the project. That consists presently of 7 projects, which are in various stages of engineering and design. And we're looking forward to those benefits, which are going to spread to every resident of the reservation. Specifically within the context of roads and bridges, I think there's been a lot of great collaborative effort that has gone in thus far. Commissioner Decker and Councilman Charlo really touched on it, that these are issues that affect all of us. And I think that there's been a lot of great work thus far in this effort, and I see this MOU as a really good opportunity to coordinate on these efforts. I think there's a terrific opportunity to develop a framework for a great long-term relationship moving forward. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you. If there's any more on the infrastructure for the irrigation roads and
bridges, but it is. It looks like we're going to move forward with that. So working together is, yeah, that's a big picture item, and definitely it behooves both of us to move forward with the MOU and collaborate as best we can. So appreciate that on your list of items and what you were presenting to the public.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to touch on the proposal that was made to council, I believe brought to them by Ellie last year, in allowing the county to crush in a tribal pit down by Jocko. And the proposal was to allow us to crush gravel so we could resurface that road. And also if the tribe could help us haul the material, we're looking, I believe, at 1,000 yards. That is what Jay said. Your folks probably are feeling a little pressure from us as far as trying to figure out if we're going to be able to do that. Jay wants to move our crusher plant at the end of March, and so we are trying to figure out if that's going to be possible or not. So again, I've talked to Ron Swaney on the Jocko Road. Everyone, it's a challenge, and our problem is there aren't enough taxpayers to do an RID up there. This would be a chance to get it fixed, hopefully for quite a while by getting some material on it. So if your folks are feeling that we're pushing a little bit, we probably are, but we're trying to get Jay to get a schedule built just so they're aware.
Thank you, Steve, for that update. So I'm sure the staff will be working on that. I see Ryan shaking his head. So see Scott Johnson on the Zoom call too. So thanks for bringing that up. Appreciate it. So like on your information sheet, you had Public Law 280, and I saw actually a little bit of press on that this morning. So you know, I'm not sure if there's any other explanation on it, but if you want to elaborate on it at all, then please do, Gail or Steve.
Yeah, this, you know, Commissioner Barron, if he was here, could maybe give us a little better history and summary of what this has looked like, this Public Law 280. It's been on our radar in the county for quite some time. We've had a lot of discussions with a lot of different folks around the county and on the reservation. The Public Law 280 is a model that the county does not want to get out of. You know, we've tried and talked to various people, senators at the federal level, a lot of our legislators. We believe that it provides the best framework for law enforcement on the reservation. We think it's a benefit for all of our people, native and non-native. But what we have bumped up against is the funding of it. It has gotten to the point where it takes up about anywhere from 40 to 60% of our county budget is spent on law enforcement, safety, courts, detention center. And so it's gotten to the point where it's such a drain on our resources, financial, that we've had to take money from other departments to, you know, put that towards the Public Law 280. So we feel, and I think there's the legislators that we've talked to, Greg Hertz is in the video. I think there's a consensus among the legislators and the people at the state level that there is some liability for the state here to help fund these costs. So we are going to the governor with a request for funding for Public Law 280 to help us with those costs. I think we have a 60-day response window that we're waiting for the governor. And then if the answer is no, that they choose not to direct any money towards Lake County, why then we'll file a lawsuit against the state of Montana. So I think that's where we are right now. We do have a firm in Missoula that's taken this on for us, and they're the lead in this whole project.
Appreciate that information. Any questions from council in regard to this item? Okay. Your next item you had on it was on your information sheet is the Flooded Reservation Water Management Board. And we certainly can give you an update on our side of that too. We have Melissa here, staff person. And so I think for the benefit of the public involved and the people who are here, it'd be great to have an update from her that would go additive to what you have listed on your information sheet. Melissa?
Thank you, Chairman and members of the council and the county commissioners. It just coincides today will be the third meeting of the Water Management Board this afternoon from 1 to 3 at the Ronan Community Center. For those who have not followed the news, the fifth member, which fully constitutes the board, was appointed last week or selected last week. So the full board will have opportunity to meet for the first time today. They are moving forward with an aggressive agenda, including for today, considering a job description for the Office of the Engineer. And so that is one of the very first key people that will need to be employed by the Water Management Board in order for them to start meeting their obligations under the ordinance. There are significant challenges that the board faces, not the least of which is finding office space. And so we are looking for that. We are also helping to work with the state on identifying all the other administrative needs that the Water Management Board has as well. And so we're moving forward. We believe that the Water Management Board in the next couple of weeks will be doing some work sessions and online training on the ordinance and the compact itself, and continue to move forward with its agenda. One of the requests I was going to ask, the information item provided by Lake County mentions a letter or a directive from the Montana Department of Environmental Quality from October of 2021. It would be nice if we could get a copy of that directive so we could take a look at it and see if there's anything that we could work with the county on that issue for.
Thank you, Melissa. So as you hear, we're of course very concerned and want to make sure that this board gets implemented, which it's currently fully vetted now as far as the positions. So we want them to hit the ground running, and we believe that it is a very important aspect of our future, and timelines or timeframes are a consideration. And so we know that we have our full support for the board to make sure that they're successful, that they hit the ground as running as fast as possible. So if you could provide us that letter, maybe we could, help in that situation. Otherwise, we would need to just get this board functioning, get them operational. And we're striving to do that as fast as we can.
Well, we can certainly provide a copy of that letter. And I think the last sentence that we added, in that particular ad is that at this point, we can't approve any land divisions of any kind. And we have, our planning department has numerous land divisions just waiting for final approval. And so we can't do that at this point per that letter, which we will get to you. So we've asked the Lieutenant Governor, possibly of some kind of interim agreement that could be reached that would allow us to approve these land divisions. But we haven't heard anything from her for about 2 or 3 weeks. So we will continue to pursue that, as, that's probably the biggest issue that we have on our plate right now is the halting of all of these land divisions that people are waiting to get final approval for.
Thank you, Gail. We'll wait to see that letter. Is there any other comments from council on this topic? Or other commissioners, Steve or anybody? If not, we can move on to your next item on your informational sheet was a temporary travel tax exemption injunction. And I think we're pretty well versed on that one.
Mr. Chairman, the one thing I did do this morning is call Shane and asked next Tuesday at 10 a.m. at the courthouse in Missoula, the arbitration panel is going to meet. And I think it would be really neat if the tribe would have someone that could sit in on that, just so they get all the information firsthand. I think it'd be worth someone's time to do that.
Okay, I'm sure Shane's passed that on to our other staff and department head of legal. So thank you for passing that information on, Steve. The next item you had was the Finley Point Road Improvement District. And I know there was a lot of great public involvement in this one, that you had some meetings that were standing room only probably on this one, if I recall correctly. So, for the benefit of the other council here, maybe Gail or Steve, you could kind of summarize that project or need for us.
Well, it's a road that if you haven't driven it for a while and unfamiliar with it, it's a little over 6 miles, I think 6.2 miles of road. It is in poor shape, a lot of potholes, a lot of places where the chip seal is coming apart. And so, we had a lot of questions from residents about some mechanism that could be put in place to provide a permanent fix to this Finley Point Road. And so we did have a public hearing and we took a lot of public comment. There was a lot of issues raised that needed to be concerned and addressed, such as, signage along the road. There was talk of, a pedestrian path, wildlife interactions with vehicles. And so there was a lot of discussion. The idea that, was kind of put on the table was that this would be a paving project. It wouldn't be a chip seal project. And paving is much, much more expensive than chip sealing. So I think the final price of the project come to about $4 million. We had Katie Stinger, our administrative assistant here, had done a lot of work on it. We identified how many benefited properties?
701 lots, 596 benefited properties.
So there were 701 lots and 590 taxpayer IDs. So then when we applied the cost of this project to the benefited properties, it came out to a payment of about $700 a year for about 10 years. So there's been significant pushback from people about the cost, and we completely understand that. That's a significant addition to your tax bill for 10 years. So presently, we've just kind of put the project on hold, seeing if there's some other areas, sources of funding that we might be able to access that would drive down the cost to these benefited properties. It's Re-chip sealing it, again, probably is still on the table, although that's not a permanent fix. It would be significantly cheaper. So anyhow, there's still ongoing discussions, and we're a long ways away from any finalized project.
Yeah, Gail, appreciate that back history on it. So knowing that the bipartisan infrastructure law is out there and it's about ready to be fully implemented, it seems like that would be a good one of those other revenue sources that might fit to help with this project, if not fully fund the project. And certainly I know that we would be interested in collaborating with you on trying to secure funding for any of the road projects that benefit both of us under that bipartisan infrastructure law, and this could be one of those. So it might be a stronger appeal if it's done jointly between the county and the tribes. So definitely we would love to, explore and bring back to our area as much of the bipartisan infrastructure law funding as possible in so many different venues. So this would be one of those potentially we might be able to work with you on, certainly, and hopefully that would be something that we would do. So any other comment? Yeah, go ahead.
I appreciate that. We do have a couple other roads that we are going to apply through the RAISE grant. And that is Dublin Gulch Road and also North Reservoir Road. Those again are both chip sealed roads that are in very bad repair again. And again, there's not enough taxpayers to fund a special improvement district. So we're putting together grant requests for those two roads, and we may very well come to you folks for a letter of support for those projects. So we are trying to get some federal funding for some of these very costly road projects.
Thank you. Your next item was marijuana tax, and you do have that coming up, so maybe you could give us a verbal summary of that also. That'd be great.
Well, I think we have our election supervisor here. I think the idea or the decision of the commissioners was to give the voters a choice on the ballot as to what they want to do with this marijuana tax. And I believe the choices that are going to be on the ballot is a 3% tax on recreational marijuana only, a 3% tax on recreational and medical, or a tax on neither of them. So I guess the consensus of the commissioners was we're going to leave this up to the voters and let them weigh in, and we'll see where it goes.
Did you have any particular needs you're going to assign that revenue if it's a favorable action by the voters?
We really haven't had any in-depth discussions about what we would do with that revenue. Obviously, there's a lot of places we could use it. There's addiction services, mental health services. There's a lot of places we could apply it, but like I say, we really haven't had any in-depth discussion about it. And I guess part of it is that we really don't know how much money it's going to generate. It looks like it could be significant based on what, the papers have reported as the amount of sales, in the first month.
I know that, I know that the drug court that's been established has been a very successful item and, for all the people of the reservation or Lake County in particular. So that certainly is something that, you know, if there was additional funding needs, you know, I think based on the conversations I've had with tribal council here, that would be a need that would be of great importance, that if this was approved by the folks of the voters of our county, then that would be something that would be surely appreciated. So if you have it, I know there's limitations on what is allowed under the legalization of marijuana that the legislature put on it. So I know there was also discussions about parks, you know, outdoor facilities, and some counties are doing that also. So that's great. If we can participate, and I'm assuming it'll pass. And so if we can participate in that discussion with you, and be able to maybe even match fundings for certain initiatives, we would certainly love to do that. Any other comments on that by council or staff? Your next item on your informational sheet was the CARES ARPA funds.
Well, we're trying to get some of this money allocated and sent out to these different entities. What the county determined to do with the money that we got, and I believe we've received about 2.9 million so far, with about an equal amount coming later. We took applications from many different entities that had needs, a lot of water and sewer districts, other entities such as Ronan Fairgrounds. We took into account some of the county's needs for funding. And so we've processed, I believe, and gotten final approval for about 6 of these projects. I think the largest one was the Pablo Water and Sewer District, and I'm looking at this board behind me. We have a list, but I think it was, according to the board here, about $439,000 for upgrading of the Pablo sewer system. We have some money going to R. Lee. We have some other water and sewer districts, Jetty Lake, Ponderosa Hills. So anyhow, it's been a slow process getting final approval from the state, but we do have Billy Lee working on this project for Lake County and trying to get these projects approved and trying to get the money out there so some of these repairs can eventually be done. But again, our intent was not to focus on 1 or 2 large projects, but maybe try to fund 12 or 15 smaller projects throughout the county.
I could speak a little bit on the CARES money. We have got a generator coming for public health building, and sadly enough, it was drug protection is a big piece, but at least that building will have backup power. We did decide to upgrade the radio consoles and dispatch, which is a $900,000 project. And we also are in the process of doing some upgrading down in the detention facility, painting. Probably the biggest piece is new electric doors that haven't worked for years. Hopefully that project will be done, I'm guessing, in another 4 months or so. So that's some other stuff that we've been doing with the CARES money.
Any questions from council for Steve or Gail on the CARES or ARPA funding? Sounds like great projects.
Well, the CARES money has allowed us to do some projects that we just didn't have the money for previously. And so it's been very helpful to us. The 911 dispatch center, that's does dispatching for all of the entities throughout the county. And so the equipment that we had there was pretty outdated, and it was a huge expenditure for the county. The $900,000 we could not have afforded without the CARES money. So it's been very, very helpful in getting some of these projects done that we just couldn't afford to do previously.
Great. I just remembered that I have Shane in the room, and I want to backtrack back to the marijuana topic and ask Shane to give us an update that would be beneficial for informational. Shane, would you come up, please?
Well, good morning, commissioners and James, one of my classmates from law school. It's good to see all of you, and just wanted to quickly update you. I think the chairman and the council hit on this already on the revenue sharing side, that in the future we'd like to keep having conversations and sit down with you all about what that looks like. But I think for just an update on what CSKT has done on marijuana decriminalization, the tribes have passed a resolution decriminalizing marijuana for individuals 21 and over, and that differs from Montana law a little bit in what Montana did, but there are a lot of similarities, and the council made that decision to ensure that the membership was being treated fairly on the reservation. And so what the tribes have just really briefly have done is it's civil penalties for individuals 18 to 21, have established a structure for civil penalties for individuals who have marijuana. Over the age of 21, the tribes have decriminalized marijuana for individuals for amounts up to 2 ounces, less than 2 ounces of marijuana and less than 16 grams. And that differs from Montana in the sense that Montana structured civil penalties between 8 grams and 16 grams and 1 ounce and 2 ounces. What the tribes have done is just done away with enforcing law enforcement, at least tribal law enforcement here, from citing folks with civil penalties between 1 ounce and 2 ounces and 8 grams and 16 grams. So of course, under Montana law, over 2 ounces and over 16 grams is still a felony penalties. So just wanted to update you all on that. The council had passed a resolution, I believe back in October, submitted that to the Bureau of Indian Affairs. And after 90 days, if we don't receive any comments back from the Bureau, it becomes law under our Constitution. So we did not hear back after 90 days. So that is now the current policy. But we also have current status offenses. They'll still be in place for marijuana offenses, for youth offenders, for status offenses as well. So just wanted to update you all on that. And of course, James has my phone number. So if he wants to talk more about that and what that looks like, feel free to reach out to me.
Thank you, Shane.
Mr. Chairman, going back to 911, just some figures that I thought I'd let you know. In 2021, they answered 4,428 calls, about 3,500 calls a month. I find that interesting, to give you an idea how busy they are. We had 1,330 car wrecks and that year, and 4,790 traffic stops, to give you an idea of their workload.
Steve, are you still providing dispatch center services to the municipalities like Ronan?
Yes, we are. And a big change when we changed the structure of 911, we used to charge the incorporated cities for dispatch fees. And it was determined that the taxpayers are already paying that in their county taxes. So the municipalities are no longer charged for dispatch fees.
Okay, thank you.
So kind of getting back to the marijuana tax, has council had any discussions about dispensaries? That's something where we haven't really taken a dive into either. I think, and Shane may be helpful here, James too, what the limits are as far as the number of dispensaries, that we can actually allow or license here in the county, and are the rules different on the reservation? And, I think at some point, a discussion is gonna need to be had about, what kind of limits are we gonna put on these dispensaries, and how are we gonna address this whole licensing? I know Missoula County, I think one number I heard is they had within the city like 55 dispensaries. And they felt that was a little too many. I know the city of Kalispell has their Green Mile up there on the north side of town. So anyhow, I think that's a discussion that may be beneficial to tribal council and also the county.
Gail, I don't recall that specific or, getting down into the weeds discussions unless there's other council here that recollect, have a different memory of that, but not yet. But it is a good topic, and certainly, other than the normal kind of protocol for where a bar goes in or liquor sales, those kind of restrictions. I think that's motherhood and apple pie kind of restriction that everybody would endorse. But the limitations, I'm not sure what some of it is, what does the market bear to some extent, but certainly that could be a limiting factor that we'd want to consider. And I would refer to the experts in the room, or to college classmates here, as far as any other additions to that. I'm totally ignorant to that. I know Shane, of course, sat in the legislature and had a lot of information for that particular discussion. So I don't know if there's been any further discussions in that level, Shane.
Mr. Chairman, commissioners, so at this point, what the tribes have done is just focused on decriminalization. So we haven't structured a regulatory framework. Of course, I don't want to get too much into it at this point, because I think that's something for the council and our legal staff and team to still consider on how that looks moving forward. But at this point, the tribes have only taken steps to decriminalize, not to necessarily regulate industry or dispensaries, grow operations, and those sorts of things. But all things that, of course, we would like to continue to have conversations about, that are obviously going to be have an impact on the local community and impact everybody that lives here. So we definitely want to have an open door about that and continue to have conversations with you all.
And Mr. Chairman and the commissioners, I've spoken with my counterparts down in Missoula County that are a little bit more ahead of the curve on this, and counties aren't really in the driver's seat for regulating a lot of these things. The vanguard of marijuana business regulations right now is in the cities, and so currently I'm only aware of maybe 4 or 5 different dispensaries here in the county, and I assume that we're going to see an increase and then a leveling off. And I think the best place for the county to step in then is once we reach that saturation point and can see what that looks like. And before the county starts going too far down that path, I think it would be beneficial for us to follow up on those conversations, so that if if the tribes were going to go ahead with a regulatory framework and there were going to be tribally regulated dispensaries, we were keeping our regulations as similar as possible and trying to keep a level playing field and not duplicating services.
Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate that update. The next item you had on your information sheet was the election office update. And
Yes, we received the letter from council to our elections office about the satellite office request in Elmo. And so we kind of, we're trying to put together a response, but I had our elections administrator here and she's available for questioning or addressing of it. But I had her put together just some numbers of the cost and then also the number of voters there in that Elmo area. So the total costs, and we can, you know, the costs are primarily equipment such as laptops, printers, and then there's staff training piece, and then also the staffing of the satellite office itself for 6 days, I think was the what the estimate was based on. But anyhow, the estimated cost is $8,231. And then the voter numbers there in that Elmo polling place. In 2018, there were 82 votes cast. There's 257 registered voters as of 2022. There's 219 active voters and 2022 potential polling place voters is 89. So I don't, if council has some questions or people in the audience, Ms. Kramer is here and she could do a lot better job at explaining how those numbers were arrived at.
any questions from council or staff? Thank you for that information, Gail. Appreciate it. That's good information to have. We just want to make sure that, you know, every voter has an opportunity to cast their vote. And it's the right of all of our citizens, and these remote locations are always a challenge. And so we just want to facilitate the best way we can to make sure everybody has that ability to cast that vote, and that any limitations that are out there for them, we want to try to overcome them, because everybody's voice matters. And so that's what we would hope to do. And asking for any additional opportunity for that to happen throughout the reservation. As you know, it's rural, remote areas, and just trying to figure out the best way we can serve the voters out there. So appreciate that update, Gail.
Yeah, I think you know, one of the big issues is just being able to get the staff and the training for these people that'll be running the satellite offices. You know, you people are aware and we're aware, finding employees is kind of challenging right now. And then trying to get the number of workers that we need to man these polling sites and make sure they have the training. I believe it's 2 days of training. Is that correct?
Well, we're going to have to train in two different systems. So, I mean, that was based on 5 days per person, just because we're running parallel tests. Montana is moving to a different voting system. So we're going to run parallel tests between the two to make sure it's working properly. So we're having a little difficulty staffing our own office, and then to look for temporary people for a satellite office. I just was hoping to maybe discuss now or at a later time, maybe what some other options might be. Keeping the polling place open on election day, but maybe some ideas other than 6 full days of a satellite office would be very helpful.
So those are discussions we can have.
As soon as
Down the road.
possible, yeah. I know that I have to respond to your letter by the 1st of March, so if there's any way, maybe that last week of February, to have another discussion or some more ideas would be great.
You know, we're certainly open to, you know, providing this service. But again, it's just the challenges that need to presented just with staffing and training and transportation of the equipment there and back, and getting a ADA building there where we can actually perform this service. Those are all you know, hurdles that we have to try to get over before we can provide this service.
Absolutely. We can understand those challenges. And so we'll try to assign some staff directly to work with you as quick as possible. See what we can do to help out, and see what we can do to benefit the voters of that area. We have our executive director here, and so he can certainly help us. And I think there was a couple other legal staff that were involved. So we'll work on that definitely and get back to you as quick as possible. We understand the time frame need. That's great. Any other information on the elections?
I don't think so. We
We need election judges also.
The judges.
how many judges countywide? 60?
So far, applications?
No, that's what we need.
Oh, no, like 130.
Oh, so countywide, we need about 130 election judges. And so if anybody has any ideas of people they might encourage to take on that training, it's paid for, they're reimbursed. It's kind of interesting work, actually. I haven't participated in it myself, but there is a huge need for election judges.
It's a call to service, I think, that many people would benefit from. I know Council Representative Finley was an election judge down in Missoula County recently, so she knows that experience, and we can try to recruit judges for you. We'll try to make sure we find some more people. That is a lot of staffing that needs to be done, and it's so important work. So,
Well, thank you. We appreciate that.
I would like to, take the time right now to, one of the things that I've been involved with the county that's been so beneficial in the past is the assistance and the cooperation we've had to help preserve our watershed from aquatic invasive species. And so Lake County has been a key partner with that, in assistance from law enforcement to operation of our Ravalli check station. And so we would love to make sure that we don't let up off the gas on that we keep our programs consistent and going, because zebra mussels and quagga mussels are constantly at our door. And as you well know and see the growth of the area from the number of people moving here, the number of visitors that are coming, that we hit last year at the check stations throughout the state, a new high of number of mussel infected boats that were trying to enter our state. And so the secondary protection measures that we've been able to put in place down at Ravalli has been really important for us. And so we really appreciate the support Lake County Commissioners have given to the protecting Flathead Lake and the watershed here. and hope to pursue that mutual understanding and keeping that pressure on. So really appreciate that. Any other discussion points that we would like to cover? I know we want to make sure that we meet and continue face to face. A lot of folks don't know that I used to meet, well, until just recently, almost on a monthly basis with the Lake County Commissioners on the Lake County Park Board. So been a lot of different great communications when you meet face to face, and a lot of things can be covered. A lot of things we can do for the benefit of all the citizens of our area, and a lot of projects that we collaborate on. So we look forward to doing that with you in the future, and having our opportunity to meet face to face. And it's one-on-one. I really love to hear the reports back from Ellie meeting with Steve, and I thank you for doing that. And we would like to continue to do that in the future, and set up regular meetings to meet with each other. So appreciate that.
No, I think that's, something we look forward to. I think, one of the things we've neglected to do in the past, and I think this is probably something, Chairman McDonald, that you and I can get together and kind of put together the protocol for the meetings. Where we're going to meet, when we're going to meet, what it's going to be a Zoom meeting, if it's going to be face to face. Try to put together some agenda items, and I think that's something that you and I can do together, and might make these meetings a little smoother, and maybe avoid some of the confusion that we've had in the past.
Absolutely. Look forward to doing that, Gail. One last thing I want to, on a separate note, for Gail, and I look forward to it tremendously. We were working on a Ronan High School recognition of tremendous athletes in our community. And one thing the tribes really love to do is honor and recognize people for their outstanding achievements, whether it's in education or athletics or any other endeavor they might be in. And so Gail was on the committee to recognize outstanding athletes of the Ronan school system, and that was last week. And unfortunately, I got confused on where the location was, and I had a great speech to be able to fry and tease a lot of my classmates that were there. And I got misdirected by a faculty at the Ronan Middle School and missed it completely. So I apologize again, Gail, for missing that. I really looked forward to that event, and I missed it completely. So again, sorry about that.
Well, thank you. We had a good event. You can go to our website. Anybody can go to our website and take a look at what we did with that project. So again, it's, I agree with you, recognizing some of these folks that have contributed to making this valley the great place it is for everybody to live with. We need to recognize them and honor them.
So, to take that a step farther, that would be something that, maybe the county and the tribes could do together for outstanding citizens of our area that role model that cooperation and citizenship and caring for their neighbors, that we could work together on. That would be a great, those type of positive reinforcements can't be overstated. So that could be another item we can talk about. I will say this, that I think Shane asked me why he wasn't on that list for being a basketball player under you.
Well, maybe someday, Shane. Keep going. Don't stop now.
Thank you for your time, Mr. Chairman. We appreciate it.
Oh, Jennifer, please. One more item. Jennifer, you have something?
No, I was just going to say it was actually a long time ago that I was an election judge. But I was just wondering, how many tribal members do you have doing that in Lake County?
We don't track. I've got about 62 applications right now. But I don't track whether or not the folks that have applied are tribal members or not.
Do you know if you have any or have ever had any?
I'm sorry, I don't.
Tony is fairly new to the area, so you know, some of the names she probably wouldn't recognize as being a tribal name, you know. If Steve or I looked at the list, we could probably identify some.
We'll run that
Send
by
it for
Katie
review.
and we'll get an answer for you because Katie was doing it before. So we'll get an answer for you.
And we can certainly send you the list, Jennifer. If you'd like to see the list, you know, Tony will certainly send it to you.
I was just curious if you knew off the top of your head, but thank you.
Martin?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, commissioners. Just wanted to make sure I didn't miss the opportunity to thank you for meeting with us. And Gail, you and I have to have a lunch together like we had planned and haven't yet. But the other thing is just the power of social media. We already have a couple people who I believe are tribal members that are going to put applications in for election judges. So we'll do our best to help you out with you know, anything we can. So appreciate the time today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Martin. We will get together.
Len?
Mr. Chairman and members of the council and commissioners and staff, I want to thank you all for taking the time to meet with us today. You know, I just want to remind that as elected leaders, you know, we have the common task of working for our people in this beautiful valley, and we are very fortunate because we all acknowledge we truly live in God's country. We live in a beautiful valley here. And I think it's very important that both governments continue to meet like this and share this type of information and come to solutions. And I'm very glad to see that our relationships with the tribal council and the Lake County commissioners have drastically improved since I've been on council. And so once again, I want to thank you all for your time, and we look forward to continue to have these meetings. So thank you.
Thank you, Len. Any other comments? Closing comments? Anita?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Lake County Commissioners meeting with us. You brought up an issue about the wrecks and that went on here in the last year, and definitely the tourism and people coming in and out of here have been a real problem. I hope that we can continue to meet and talk about the congestion that we feel here over the summertime, and very concerning. It's so packed in between Charlotte turnoff and up to Polson, and I'd like to continue meeting with Lake County and try to come up with some kind of a plan on what we could do to see that growth and see what we can do about that. Because it's definitely a different place come May through September. Thank you.
Thank you, Anita. I think Gail and I can put that on agenda items to talk about in actually probably the next meeting, because definitely the number of people that are moving to the reservation, Lake County, Western Montana has a direct impact to services we provide as governments, you know, conflicts that arise on the landscape. And so land use planning, you know, how we fund so many different things and how it affects all of us. So that's a good topic to have. Thank you for reminding us of that, Anita. And we'll make sure we try to get that on an agenda. Anything else?
Anita, one thing I might tell you, Ellie Bundy McLeod is now on the Lake County 911 board. And so these numbers that I had will be given to her routinely, and that might be a great help. So, and we're excited about having her on the board.
Any other items? If not, I want to thank you for coming to our agenda and our meeting today. Lake County Commissioners, Gail and Steve. I'm sorry Bill couldn't make it, but I understand his priorities, and I would have the same priorities myself. So with that, we look forward to conversations in the future, hopefully quicker than later, and that and Bill can join us on the next meeting. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, we appreciate your time. It's, we'll plan some future meetings.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
We will adjourn for lunch. Thank you.